Hello, happy Friday, and welcome back to the Eyes Up Life podcast with me, Ben Granis. We are here talking all things Pat Foster today. And before we jump into a little bit on Pat, a little bit of background on Eyes Up. Eyes Up started as a 7,000-mile bike ride that I did by myself around the United States between August 2021 and wrapped up in September 2022. And the mission was to raise awareness for distracted driving, to promote digital wellness, and hopefully make our roads a bit safer for everyone, including yourself. I really care about this mission, and now I am raising awareness in other ways, including things like this podcast. So after I finished the ride in September, I set out on a road trip this time to meet a bunch of athletes and affiliates like Pat Foster, of Maxxis tires. And if you don't know Maxxis tires, they make fabulous tire products for any wheeled vehicle. Check out MaxxisTires.com. They are fabulous and just a great company supporting a cause like this. During this road trip, I got to meet 21 Maxxis-related folks, including Pat Foster. Just going to keep saying Pat Foster's name because he's a great guy. And Pat Foster, lives in Mammoth Lakes, or in the region of Mammoth Lakes, California. He works at the Mammoth Airport, but is also a moto tester and a host of the SwapMotoLive show. Really interesting story that he has, and I hope you enjoy it. Again, I don't like to speak for whoever is on the show, so I'm going to let him do the talking. But if you have questions, comments, concerns, regardless, please stick around to the end of the show. You'll get a preview for who's going to be next, and we'll talk to you then. Enjoy the show and my conversation with Pat Foster.
Yeah, my name's Pat Foster. I'm from Bishop, California. I've lived here my whole life. We're here in Mammoth, where I've worked the last 24 years, and on the motocross side, I work with SwapMotoLive. I'm a senior test rider, and very very fortunate to be able to do what I do.
How did you get involved with Swap Moto and dirt bikes generally?
Well, I raced Supercross professionally as a kid. I turned pro when I was 17, and raced Supercross in the Nationals for 4 or 5 years or so, and then kind of had a break where I wasn't really doing anything. I'd got my job here at the airport, and how I started working with Swap's a pretty funny story, actually, just kind of dumb luck. My best friend at the time worked for Swap Moto. Actually, it was Trans World Motocross back then. But he called me and goes, "Hey Pat, come down and go riding with me. I'm testing some bikes at Paris." And Husqvarna had a big test set up. This was before the KTM buyout, and a bunch of guys had flown over from Italy for this test. They had like 7 bikes lined up, and I was just riding and hanging. And my buddy Ryan was going to do all the testing, and he got hurt on the first lap, broke his ankle or something. And so there's all these guys standing there going, "Well, now what?" And so Ryan goes, "Hey, Pat, do you mind riding these bikes for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I just thought I was at Disneyland. That would be amazing." So I rode all day and had a great time. And at the end of the day, he goes, "Hey, could you just give me some bullet points?" I don't think he had a lot of faith in me, right? Most motocross guys aren't so bright. And he goes, can you give me some bullet points on what you think about these bikes, and I'll put a story together." I go, "Well, how long of a story are you going to write?" Whatever he said, 3,000 words. I went, "Cool, yeah, I'll get you some bullet points." And I just went home and wrote the story. I've been reading dirt bike magazines my whole life. I love that stuff. So I just wrote it and sent it to him, and he loved it, and just put it in the magazine without touching it, which was a huge honor for me. I was stoked. And then he went to Don and said, "Hey, Pat can write. We should have him do this more." And that was it. I mean, it's just total luck. I just got an opportunity to go ride those bikes and ended up writing the story, and they liked it, and And so now Don and I have been working together 20 years, a lot of years at Transworld, and now SwapMotoLive, and just so fortunate to be able to do it. Right, I've got a regular job. I'm in the office a lot, but it just keeps me in the industry and going down pretty regularly and hanging with my buddies and go ride new bikes, and you get brand new gear every time you ride, and testing the latest and greatest. It's like a dream come true.
So you raced pro for 4 or 5 years, you said?
Yeah, I was kind of chasing the dream, trying to race Supercross and nationals, and it was tough. It was really hard. Coming from Bishop, there was nobody to ride with, nobody to practice with. Really hard to get better, and then trying to race Supercross was so gnarly because I ride desert sand tracks up here. We didn't have jumps, and back then there was no private Supercross tracks to go ride at. So you go show up to a Supercross and walk on the track, and you're looking at the face of a triple, and you can't see anything on the other side. Have no idea how hard to hit it. It's like, man, what do I do with this? It was it was difficult to learn, and a lot of injuries, and back then Supercross tracks were always different. Nowadays they're pretty uniform. The triples are always the same size. The pitch is always about the same on the jumps, and that wasn't like that back then. And so we had a lot of guesswork, and I guessed wrong a lot. A lot of injuries. But yeah, I raced Supercross for about 4 years, and man, amazing life experiences. It was really cool.
And then, so did you transition pretty immediately from like when you stopped racing Supercross into this job here at the airport?
Yeah, so that was just another interesting opportunity that came up. My business partner now, he was a dirt bike enthusiast. He had moved up from Southern California and was putting this deal together to take over the airport services here in Mammoth. I was racing Supercross, and I just saw him at the practice track, and he'd come down and ride in between meetings and stuff, and he and I really hit it off. Just became good buddies, and really a successful, smart, the smartest guy I've ever met, and just so meticulous in the way he does everything. I was just super impressed with him, and he was impressed with me and my work ethic, and we became friends. And at the time, I had a ride with Suzuki, and things didn't go as well as I'd hoped. I ended up losing my Suzuki ride, and I ended up coming up and talking to my partner here and saying, hey, I still want to race Supercross. These are the races that I want to do. These are my goals. Here's what I'm doing. And kind of put together a program. And he goes, yeah, basically gave me a credit card and said, use this for gas, get to the races, pay entry fees with it, and make sure that there's 2 tickets waiting for me at every stadium. And so he'd fly to Seattle, Minneapolis, Dallas, Houston, and Phoenix, come watch me race. We just became really good buddies. And like I said, I was really impressed with him. And as the injuries piled up and it just became clear that, hey, this probably isn't going to work out for me, I just started really working him a lot, going, hey, I don't care what I'm doing. I just want to be around you. I just want to watch you. I just want to learn from you. Like I said, really successful guy, really impressive. And okay, I don't care if I'm sweeping hangers. I'm going to work for you. And I just basically told him, I'm going to work for you. And so my last Supercross race was in Houston. I went out in practice and cased the triple jump. Didn't even crash, but just hit so hard it broke both my ankles. And
when you say cased, what does that mean?
So I just came up a little bit short on the jump, and so one tire's on one side, one tire's on the landing, one tire's on the transition this side, and so the cases of the engine hit. So you really don't utilize much suspension. So it's like falling, 40 feet out of the air, landing on your feet, basically. And yeah, I just broke both my legs. And so I rode over to the mechanics area, told my mechanic, hey, we're out, and rode out of the stadium, and that was it. And I called my partner shortly after that, and I go, hey, I just broke both my legs. He wasn't at that race, which was unusual. But I go, hey, I'm done. I'm done racing. I want to come to work with you. I want to be around you. I want to learn from you. And so He goes, yeah, you know what, bud? As soon as you can walk, come see me at the airport, and I'll, figure out a spot for you. So yeah, that's how that started, and that was almost 24 years ago, and man, I've loved every minute of it.
What do you like about working here and being in this industry?
So I'm not an airplane guy. Like people go, oh, you've been at the airport 24 years, you must love airplanes. No, I hate airplanes. I get airsick. They're miserable. I was going to try to get my pilot's license for a while, and I love the idea of it. It sounds like fun, but man, I get airsick, and so no, I got some amazing customers and hangar owners that we deal with. That Pat, let me take you for a flight. And nah, man, I'm not into it. I'm not into it. But just like we were talking about with my partner, you always want to surround yourself with successful people, positive influences in your life. And if you own an airplane, a jet, even a little single engine airplane, whatever you do, you're really good at it. You're successful in life. You know how to succeed. And so all day, every day, we're just dealing with very, very successful, smart business people. And so it's just amazing to be around them. We deal with airplanes. I make my money selling fuel, but we're really in hospitality. It's just making the customers feel welcome. It's making them feel valued, and basically we provide anything that they want. We really try to love on them, make their life easy, help them enjoy their vacation, and so I like that a lot. People are always really excited to get here, and when they leave, it's clear that they've had a great time in Mammoth, skiing, snowboarding, hiking, mountain biking, fishing. We're close to Yosemite. I mean, there's just so much to do here. It's hard to not enjoy watching people enjoy their vacations, building memories with their families and their friends, and very, very rewarding place to be.
What's the balance now between working here and doing work with SwapMoto?
Kind of the perfect balance. I mean, I'm a partner in the company now. I own the deal. My partner, he's an amazing partner, but pretty much leaves me alone. He's been to the airport, a few times in the last 10 years. Type of situation where if I need him, I could call him right now and he'd be on the phone with me for 2 hours if I needed it. Otherwise, he leaves me alone and lets me do my thing, which is great. And having the freedom of being the owner is awesome. But as most business owners will tell you, you're here a lot, right? Especially in the wintertime. I'm here a ton. So it's hard for me to break away to go test bikes or something in the winter. I work here almost every day. But fortunately, new bikes come out, which is mostly the type of work that I do for Swap, is testing the new bikes. And so generally they're coming out in May, June, July, August, which are slower times for me here, and I'm able to break away. And so I'll go down and test bikes for a day or two with Swap, and it's just enough to where, I mean, dirt bikes are my passion. It's my life. I love it. But if it was my full-time job, you kind of get jaded, right? It starts to become work, and that's not the case for me. I do just enough of it to where it's still amazing for me. I'm always excited every time Swap calls and says, hey, I need you to come test this new bike, and but not so much that it wears on me. So it's a perfect balance, and like I said, keeps me in the industry, keeps me. I'm able to call folks like our buddies at Bell and say, hey, I need a new helmet, and they'll send me helmets, or Scott goggles, or Maxxis, I need tires for my mountain bike. But I've got the security of a totally separate outside the industry job. So yeah, just really, really fortunate to have both.
What's walk me through like a typical test ride. Like, what are things that you're how long are you riding for? What are the things that you're noting and watching for?
Yeah, so here's kind of a behind the scenes of when a new bike comes out. Like for instance, we just got back from Florida. We flew into Tallahassee to test the new 2023 Yamaha, which is an all new bike. And when the manufacturers have an all new bike, they really put a lot of effort into the introductions. It's a press introduction, right? So we're there with other media outlets, which is fun. These are all guys that I grew up racing with. So it's going on a vacation with my buddies to go ride some cool bikes. So generally when you show up, they'll go through what the changes are on the bike. Hey, here's what's new. Here's why we did it. Here's what we think we accomplished by making these changes, which is always really interesting to hear the engineer's thoughts behind the bike. Then they'll give us our bike, and we'll go take beauty shots of it. Right? Take photos for the magazine, or in this case now, social media and the website. Take a lot of photos of the bike before it's dirty, showcasing the new stuff. And then we go out and get photos. So you get on the bike, you've got, like I said, brand new gear. While the bike's clean and the gear is clean, you go try to get some really cool photos. Big jumps, some whips, cool corners, which is always a little hard because first thing in the morning, you're on a bike that you've never ridden. You're not warmed up. You're stiff boots and new stuff, and it's like, hey, go hit this 90-foot jump and throw a big old whip on this bike that you're not familiar with, and it's interesting sometimes. But we'll go out and get photos, and then we'll come in and change cameras and stuff, and then they'll get video of me riding the bike, and so we'll compile some media for that, and then it's just time on the bike, riding laps, really working on corners, working on jumps, seeing how the suspension works, how the bike handles, how it corners, how's the motor feel, is it better than last year, is it worse, where is it good, what is it missing, and then we'll sit down very similar to this and talk about the bike and kind of recap what the changes were, and then kind of really get into the feel on the track, how we liked it, what we didn't like, what could use improvement, what changes did we make. Hey, we needed to adjust this on the suspension, we changed the sag height, and kind of give people an idea of, if you were buying this bike, well, one, should you buy this bike? Is it good? Is it better? How does it compare to some of the others? But also, if you do, these are some of the things that we think would help with your setup. And so that's kind of the day. And then when we had Trans World Motocross magazine, we'd go back and write a story about it. And then they also put together a video of clips of the bike, clips of us riding, clips of us talking about it. And so that's kind of how that process works. Once we've done that for all of the bikes, and like I said, we went back to Florida for this Yamaha because it's an all-new bike. But if the bike hasn't changed, they don't spend that much money and use that many resources to introduce a new bike. We'll go to Glen Helen. Hey, here's your bike. It's minor changes from last year. So, but once we've collected all of the bikes, then we'll do a shootout where we get them all together. We get six different riders of varying abilities and sizes and ages and things. And we'll test all the bikes back to back, which is really telling. Like, you get off a Honda and get onto a Yamaha, and then Yamaha to a Kawasaki, and then back to a Honda, and then do a Husqvarna or KTM or Suzuki. You can really feel the differences in the bikes and what works good and what you like and what you don't like. And then each of us take our time telling, we do a video like this, here's what I like the best, here's why. And so people can go, hey, you know what, I ride similar to Pat, I can kind of relate to his style, his speed, his weight, these types of things. Gosh, it seems like maybe that's the bike or the top two bikes that I should consider buying. And we might have a 60-year-old, 230-pound vet novice that kind of goes through what he liked and why, and people could go, oh, I kind of relate more to this guy, maybe this bike's better for me. So that's kind of a synopsis of what we do.
With all of this and also your work here, what's your involvement with social media and kind of promoting the work that you're doing?
So I tell Don all the time, hey, I need you to send me a lot of photos and I need you to send me clips, because I'm up here in Mammoth and Bishop. I'm not at Paris every week, and I'm not at Glen Helen every week, and I'm not seeing all the guys. So I need to post a lot here just to stay relevant in the industry, right? People don't see you for a few weeks or a month or 2 months, and like I said, in the wintertime, I don't get out to ride a lot. So I try to gather as much content as I can when I'm down riding and testing, because I post a lot so people don't forget about me. It's easy to get forgotten up here.
What do you like? What's your experience with it? Do you enjoy that side of things? And also, what's your consumption side of social media?
Well, you know what? I enjoy posting. I enjoy seeing my buddies' posts. Um, I there's definitely a line there that man, people are on their phones too much, right? It's a problem, and I tell my wife and my kids and my buddies all the time, I'm so glad that I grew up in the '90s when this wasn't really a thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because I think had I had social media been available, it would have been a lot easier for me to get sponsors and to get help being up here. I could have been in their eye a little bit more, and people could have been a little more aware of me. But it was great being outside and just riding bikes and riding dirt bikes, and not glued to your phone all the time. It's necessary in some ways. Like I said, it helps me stay relevant. But man, you can get sucked into it. It could eat up a lot of your time.
Do you find that there are moments where it's eating up your time and you kind of come to and realize that, or not so much?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's cold up here, and so I get up in the morning and I'm sitting there by the fire, and it's easy to get caught up in stories and stuff. I'm like, hey, you know what? I could be doing something else. I mean, it might be too cold outside right now to go pedal or go riding, but man, I could go to the gym. I could pick up a book. I could do something that's going to either help me when I go test bikes. I could be in better shape, or I can do some reading so I'm a little bit more prepared for my job here. A little bit more in tune. Yeah, it's definitely a problem. It's definitely a problem.
And how, like, in those moments where you realize, like, oh, I could be doing something like that, what's keeping you on your phone? Like, what's pulling you in?
I don't know. It's addictive, right? I'll just be scrolling through stories that have nothing to do with anything, but you're just kind of curious, right? Like, hey, what's the next one? Hey, what's the next one? And I follow some pretty funny sites and a lot of dirt bike sites, and of course, my buddies that ride dirt bikes, they've all got good sense of humor, and we're all doing the same things. That's fun. So it's fun to see what they're doing and what they're up to, and it does help bring the world closer together, right? You see friends that you might not see a lot, and it kind of feels like you're following their lives a little bit more. But it's kind of a drag when we go out to dinner and I've got my phone out because I'm doing something, and I look up and my kids have their phones out and my wife has her phone out, and you kind of glance around the restaurant and it's like, wow, nobody's talking. Everybody's got their phone out. That's not healthy.
How old are your kids, and how many do you have?
I've got 2 daughters, and I've got one's 21 and one's 19.
Okay, so it's not like they're in middle school, but when did they get their first phone?
Oh, you know what? They got their phones early because my wife and I were working a lot, and we wanted to be able to get in touch with them, right? We wanted to be able to keep an eye on my kids, and fortunately I had amazing kids. They never got in trouble for anything. I don't know that there's anything necessarily that we did, but we've got a really good relationship with them, and got them phones not to screw around on, but because we cared and we wanted to be able to get in touch with them if we needed them for anything or they needed us. So they got them early, and I don't know if that's good or bad. They are 20-year-old girls, so they're on their phone a lot. But I don't know if it's worse than anybody else or not. I don't know. I don't know.
So based on, obviously they're adults and they make their own decisions now, what are your observations of their use of their phones, and does it seem like when they're on their phone, that affects their interactions with you or general demeanor?
Yeah, it does. It does. They're on their phones a lot, and I would say doing dumb things that don't matter, right? Just looking at Snapchat or looking at Instagram or those types of things. So no, I don't think they're doing anything that productive when they're on. And of course, you lose some of that interaction when they're staring at their phone. Yeah, it's a distraction.
What are some things that you find in your life that help you come back to what actually makes you happy, like away from your phone? When are you kind of getting a breath of fresh air, maybe literally?
Yep.
And how about for your wife and your daughters?
So Dawn got me into mountain biking. And even though I live in like one of the best places to mountain bike on earth, I never got that into it. When I was training to race, I was riding on the road a lot. And you and I talked before we got started. Mammoth, this airport's at 7,000 feet, and I live at 4,500. So it's straight up from there to here. And I used to ride up the highway a lot to train, but I was on the highway. And 'cause I didn't have a quality mountain bike, and back in the 90s they weren't that great anyway. So I'd ride some of the trails off and on, and it just wasn't that interesting to me. The bike was kind of a pile. As bikes evolved, Swap got into it, and he's like, Pat, you got to do this. This is super fun. And he kind of forced me into getting a bike. And now, maybe the last 5 years, gosh, I'd ride every single day if I could. And I love riding my mountain bike. We've got amazing trails to ride in Bishop. And I mean, it's my goal to get at least an hour in every day. And I just feel so much better about life. I feel less stressed. I feel, you eat better when you're getting out and getting some exercise and getting some fresh air. And when I'm working on things here at work, I've got challenges at work. I've got a big meeting coming up. I got negotiations coming up. Man, my best, clearest thinking is when I'm out pedaling. Like I get my best ideas, my best strategies. Everything becomes so clear to me. And I just can't even believe that there was a time in my life when I wasn't mountain biking every day. And like I said, the guys at Maxxis are great to me. Their tires are amazing. And on these mountain bike trails, and my bike is amazing, Specialized. We work with Specialized at SwapMoto, and just everything works good, everything feels good, and you can kind of turn your brain off. You're not even thinking about pedaling or riding. Just get lost in your thoughts, and I love that. I love that. And in fact, I got a Specialized Levo, a pedal assist bike for my wife, so that she could come ride with me. Because frankly, if she's riding a regular bike and I'm riding a regular bike, we try to go ride together. Neither of us are having fun, right? It's a drag for both of us. But on the Levo, she can get out and ride with me, and we could both have a good time. And you could just see it in her attitude, in her demeanor, and how she's feeling about herself. You get out and pedal and get some fresh air and get some exercise. It's just good for the soul.
Totally. Yeah, so as a cyclist, I mean, it sounds like you do mostly ride on trails, but you've done some road riding. So talk to me about distracted drivers and your experience with them.
So, you know what? Growing up here in Bishop and Mammoth area, I didn't have any local dirt bike races. Local to me was Carson City or Fernley, and that's 3.5 hours, 4 hours to go race up there. But those were my local tracks. And I had a buddy that I grew up with named Freddie Weekers, who turned pro a couple of years after me. Really promising young man, and really good rider. And he got killed by a distracted driver. Obviously, cell phones weren't prominent then, but you could be distracted by anything, right? Eating your fries from Jack in the Box or something. And I don't know exactly what the scenario was, but Freddie died at like 18, 19. Tragic deal. And we were a really close community up there. And yeah, that was devastating. And yeah, something that's on my mind. Like I said, when I was training a lot, I was riding the kind of a street-based mountain bike, but on the road. And semis would pass me way too close, and fortunately, I never had any too close of calls. But man, it's always on your mind. You can hear them coming. I'm like, man, I hope this person's paying attention. But more recently, I've got a couple Harleys that I ride, and riding from Bishop to Mammoth is a beautiful ride, and there's not a lot of traffic, but there's deer and there's things to be concerned about, and I'm constantly checking my mirrors and doing the thing, because you never know when, this 18-year-old girl's behind you and she's texting and can hit you. And both of my daughters have shown interest in riding, and hey, Dad, we'd like to get a bike of our own. And they've ridden street bikes, and they know they have their licenses. But man, that's something that's on my mind a ton, because you could be doing everything right and get killed so easily, and I just don't know if my daughters have enough wherewithal to be checking their mirrors and watching behind them as much as they're watching in front of them and to the sides. And it's just one of those things that I just haven't been comfortable pulling the trigger on getting them bikes, because, like, man, you guys could be doing everything right, and all it takes is somebody not paying attention, and that's it. There's no do-overs.
Right. Yeah. How does your experience on the road and just with Freddie and everything, how does that affect your approach to driving when you're actually in your car?
Oh, you know what? So my wife, obviously she gets it, but I think she rolls her eyes at me a little bit when I come up to pass somebody on bikes. I'll go all the way over in the other lane. I give them, it's not like 3 feet. I give them 10. Like, hey guys, I've been where you're at. I respect what you're doing. You don't have to worry about me. I definitely pay a lot of attention and try to be over courteous, just so people aren't concerned or worried, and just so they know that people are paying attention. Hopefully the car behind me and the car behind them sees me swing way wide and does something similar.
How about with distractions in the car?
It's technology keeps growing. There's more and more of it in your car. I've got a brand new truck, and it's amazing the type of things that it can do on the screen and stuff. And it's hard to not get distracted, especially on long drives. And but man, it's so important. You just never know. You just never know. And you look down for 1 second, and there's somebody walking on the side of the road. There's like I said, there's no second chances on that.
Do you find that you're tempted or have found yourself like using your phone when you're driving despite knowing all of this?
Oh, absolutely. You're always tempted, right? You always think that things that are going on are important. I'm driving down. When I get in the car to go test bikes, it's always a 5 or 6 hour drive. And I've got a pretty significant role that I play here at the airport. So I'm always getting calls, or I'm getting texts, or I'm getting emails and things, and I'm trying to take care of things while I'm out of the office. And so yeah, it's very tempting, and it's hard to manage that. Fortunately, my wife likes to go with me a lot, and she works here at the airport with me, so she knows the types of things that we're doing and what I'm working on at the time. And so I'll often hand her the phone and say, hey, can you text this person back, or can you answer this email? Here's what I want you to say. So yeah, that is helpful, but yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to not get distracted or be tempted to try to get some work done while you really shouldn't be.
Right. What would you say to, or I guess what's going to be a step forward for the rest of the country that maybe doesn't have the same appreciation for cyclists or other users of the road, or just other cars and the risks associated with being distracted?
That's a tough one, because, and this is going to sound horrible, but usually people don't care until something really bad happens close to them, right? I mean, they could hear all the stories in the world about a cyclist getting clipped, or somebody walking on a sidewalk getting clipped, or something by a distracted driver. But until it happens to you and you know somebody, it just doesn't seem to make much of an impact, right? Because people are aware of the problems. People have heard the stories, but every red light you pull up to, you look over at the person next to you and they're doing something with their phone, right? So I don't know what the answer is. I certainly hope that we could figure out a solution so that it doesn't take somebody close to that person getting hurt, injured, killed, to make an impact. But I appreciate what you're doing because somebody needs to do something.
Right. Yeah, and it's we got a long way to go if everyone has to have a personal experience with distracted driving. Also, the amount of injuries and lives lost
It's
between
horrible.
now and then.
It's horrible. Yeah, it's sad to think about. I just, frankly, I don't know what else can be done to educate folks. I think we need to keep trying. It's absolutely worth it. But the amount of distracted driving is it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah. One thing that's been surprising during this project is usually I bring up the driving focus feature on your phone, and do you know what that is?
I do.
Do you
I do.
use it?
I do. I do. And you know what? We've got some, like I told you, we bought our daughter's phones young, but we've got like Life 360 on our phone, so we all know where each other are at any time. So if my girls are on a trip, we could see, oh, the girls are driving, they're going along. But there's some pretty cool features on there where you could see how fast they went, if there was distracted driving, hard acceleration, hard braking, and that's kind of cool. We could say, hey, what was going on here? What happened? Just kind of help, not so much trying to get anybody in trouble or anything, but like just giving them some guidance. Hey,
Life 360, you said it's called?
yeah. And so it tells you, like, if I bring it up right now, it'll show me my wife's at home, my daughters are at home, I'm at work, but it'll show my last drive, how long it took me to get here, how fast I went, if there was any hard acceleration or hard braking or anything, which kind of indications that, I wasn't paying attention or something was wrong. So, and my kids love it. When I'm driving, they could, hey, I haven't heard from Dad in a while. Rather than calling me, they could just click the button on their phone and go, oh yeah, he's in Adelanto and he's going 35 miles an hour through town. And it's pretty helpful.
Is that geared towards families, or is it?
You know what? Anybody can be on it. Yeah, you can kind of create a group of people that you're close to that you want to know where they're at and what's going on and if they're good. It's really helpful for me when I'm mountain biking. My wife can see that I'm moving. Hey, Pat's going 7 miles an hour up the hill or whatever. Because I've, like everybody, I've crashed the mountain bike and I'm out in the middle of nowhere by myself. I've taken some naps out there, and so it can help her find me if something really bad happened. But yeah, it's pretty helpful app.
So you're in the small percentage of the population that I've talked to that uses, or that was using before we talked, the driving focus feature.
Yep.
What's been your experience with it? And do you use the auto reply feature on it? Or
No,
not so much?
I haven't. It's one of those things where I think that, look, I get in my car and I pull off my street and I'm driving up here. I get a mile out of town and I set the cruise control and I'm on the cruise until I get to work. And my drives are pretty uneventful. So it's not something that, that I've needed to utilize much. But yeah, it's like I said, my stuff's pretty uneventful. And as far as distracted driving, like I said, when I need to send a text or an email or something, usually my wife's with me. Like I said, she works with me. It's unusual that she didn't come to work with me today, so I kind of have a co-pilot. So while we just it really hasn't been a big part of my life.
Which is great, and it's great that you have a co-pilot, especially
Yeah.
on those longer drives when you have more time to think of things or people that you want to reach out to, or more texts coming through.
Yeah, sure. Yep, and I noticed as you and I were texting, it always popped up that you were driving, your notifications were on sleep, and I appreciated that. I appreciate
it's
that.
been
You'll get back to me when you can get back to me.
Right, exactly. That's the whole point, is it can all wait.
Yep.
You're most likely going to be okay if you were distracted while you're driving, but you never know, and you don't want to take the risk that that 1% event is going to happen now.
I couldn't even imagine if I hurt or injured somebody. Like, can you even imagine living with yourself if you hit a bicycle rider because you're looking down at your phone? And it doesn't even have to be a phone. It could, like I said, it could be reaching for your bag of fries, or, I mean, devastating. I don't know you come back from that.
Yeah, I don't think you really can.
No.
Yeah, so the goal is to help people avoid a situation like that where they learn the lesson that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, talk to me about we kind of talked about when you are most free from distractions. When are you happiest? Like, what are you doing?
Oh, definitely riding a dirt bike or riding my mountain bike. You know what? Even my wife and kids have a bunch of dogs. I'm not really a dog guy, but we've got 4 dogs, and they're great. They're fine. But you know, I enjoy taking them out for walks, and we live really close to a canal, and I'd load the dogs up in the back of the truck and just going out and walking. And just, you know what, getting fresh air, getting a little exercise, and a little bit of quiet, and away from the phones, and away from the emails, and away from the work and the stuff. There's just nothing like getting a little exercise, getting some fresh air, and clearing your mind. Like, that's absolutely when I'm happiest. Like I said, if I could be walking, I could be going for a run, riding the mountain bike, riding the dirt bike. That's I wish I had more of that. And I get a lot. I make sure I get a lot, but you could always use more.
Absolutely. There was a study that came out last year, I believe, that said that the average American will spend about 5 years of their life on social media over the course of their life.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what your reaction was, if that's surprising.
No, it's not surprising at all. I think it's sad. I think it's terrible. And look, I'm guilty of looking at it probably way more than I should. But no, I absolutely believe that, and I think that number's probably correct.
I was shocked at first when I saw it, and then they broke it down to like how much time it is actually per day, and it's
Yep.
only like 90 minutes or so.
Sure.
So
Yep.
it becomes way more believable.
Yeah. I totally believe that. I blame people like my buddy Swap for putting good content on that's funny, and I'm just teasing him, but
Well,
he does have a lot of good stuff that I like to follow, and it just feels like I'm with him every day, and then it leads to conversations like, hey man, that mountain bike jump you did was gnarly, and then he'll call and tell me about it and stuff, and we'll talk, and so there's some great things about it where it does bring you closer to your buddies that we've got 5 hours in between us, but no, there's definitely a line of, hey, this is too much.
Right. It's about getting the balance.
Yeah.
And I think it comes with awareness and appreciation for the things away from your phone, which I think you have a strong appreciation for.
Well, and look, you're doing great things right now, and you're reaching out to people through this medium, right? I mean, it does do great things. It's like, hey, we're bringing awareness to put your phone down a little bit, but how are you going to reach people? Through your phone, right? So there's great things that come from it in moderation. And so, yeah, I'm really hoping people enjoy these interviews that you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's a great idea, and that's why I wanted to be a part of it. But hey, if you're looking for the best way to reach people, unfortunately, this is kind of the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I got in touch with most of these people. I mean, you responded to the email, which was great, but a lot of these people are not looking at email because they're riding their bikes and looking at Instagram, so Instagram messaging was a really effective way. Just to wrap up, what's some advice you would give to a young person who's trying to chase a dream or follow a career path that they really want to, but they feel pressure from parents, school, peers to do something the opposite direction?
Nothing replaces hard work. Hard work and being honest and being honorable. These are some of the words that I use, my partner and I use. Honor is a big one. Doing what you say you're going to do. But nothing replaces hard work. And That's one of my mottos with my partner. Like I said, he's the smartest guy I've ever met, and he didn't graduate high school. When I got done racing dirt bikes, Dave McCoy, who founded Mammoth Mountain, he had sponsored me when I was younger, and he pulled me aside one time. And he goes, "Hey, listen, I enjoyed helping you out. I was hoping that you're going to make it big and make millions and do the whole thing. Now that I understand that you're quitting racing and it hasn't worked out, I'm big on education and I'd like to send you to college. You tell me where you want to go, and I'll take care of it." It's like, wow, what an amazing opportunity, but it didn't appeal to me. It wasn't where I wanted. It wasn't where I was at, and I had this opportunity to work with my partner, and I went to him and I said, "Look, Dave just offered me this. What do you think?" And he's like, "Hey, that's an amazing offer, and if you want it, you should take that. And if it's meant to be that we work together later, they'll always have a spot for you. But Pat, I didn't go to school. Our other business partner who ran a Fortune 500 company didn't go to school. Like, hey, we can teach you all this stuff. If you know how to work hard and you're honest and you show up and you that was always our motto. Hey, we're going to outwork them. You can do anything you want." And my advice would be find a good mentor that's willing to work with you and help you and give you some guidance, and pursue your dreams. Pursue your dreams. You never know what opportunities are going to come up. Be ready, be prepared, and man, you can do anything you want.
Sweet. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm really excited for you. I hope that this has a huge impact, and I hope you save some lives.
Thank you. Well, you're playing a big role in it, so thanks for your time and being excited to do it.
I appreciate it. Happy to do it.
Cool. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, you got it, buddy.
Well, there you have it. That was Pat Foster. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with him. It was a cold morning, but he had a nice warm space in his office right next to the runway at Mammoth Lakes Airport, and it was sunny and cozy in there. He's a great guy. Just loved chatting with him and hearing his background and his experience. If you're new to the show, make sure you subscribe to Eyes Up Life wherever you are listening to this now, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Eyes Up Ride on Instagram, as well as Maxxis Tires on Instagram. Every 2 weeks, there's a new video with the person on this podcast. They come out 2 days before this comes out, and they're pretty interesting. They're short, sweet, beautifully produced, and hopefully informative for you. So go check that out. It's in my feed, Eyes Up Ride on Instagram, also on YouTube, Maxxis Tires. Check them out. And we still have 14 of these to go, or 13. I'm not sure where we're at right now. Stay tuned. In 2 weeks, we have Wyatt and Landen Brown, a father-son combo coming at us from Skeety, Oklahoma. It was a new place for me, new state for me, and a great time. So we'll see you next time. I appreciate you being here. Would love to hear your feedback, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.